You can always make fun of band kids. It's always morally correct. Anyways, unfortunately, we're here again talking about the Russian and Ukrainian conflict that's been going on. We've been talking about it. We've been doing streams about it. You've probably seen a lot of information about it in one way or the other. You've been seeing maps that have been dropped. You've been seeing video that's been that's been dropped. You may have seen other streamers talking about it, or like TV segments about it. There's lots of people that have been talking a lot about this. Obviously, it's very important. And if there are wrong moves on either side, it could be something. It could spill out into a larger conflict, whether or not we would like to call that World War III, whatever, right?
This meme is very real.
But what's important is to dig through the propaganda, all propaganda, right? It's always fun. I love it personally to get a little bit of like good meme propaganda. Ghost of Kiev, Ukrainian soldiers tying up Russian Ukrainian soldiers getting 53 Russian soldiers in a Scooby-Doo style trap. Okay, and like I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you and your meddling Western governments, right? Propaganda, or did I say propaganda? It's good to take a little bit of propaganda, a little every now and again for fun, but it's important to get through to talk about what's actually happening, because while Ukraine is winning the propaganda and information war, it's really important to understand whether or not they're winning the real war. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be important. It's all fun to post memes all the time, but now we have to understand if those memes actually translate into real world gains on the ground in this war. So there are lots of people out there who may tell you, and wait, raise your hand, and you can do this if you're watching this on YouTube, and you can say it now. All right, raise your hand if you've been feeling a little doomer. All right, you've been going on a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to this. Okay, you're feeling like really bad when it first started, and then like good because you're like, oh my gosh, the Ukrainians are doing so well, and then bad because people say I mean, no, through the propaganda, everything is fake and they're actually dying on the ground, and then good again because like Kyiv wasn't taken, and then bad because now they're bombing civilians. Let me know. Me, I'm doomering. I'm not going to sit here and fix your doomering, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you what's actually happening. But I'm not going to be fixing your doomering. I want you to have a realistic view of what's going on the ground. But I'm not here to I'm not going to be pumping you full of propaganda here, okay? I cannot pump my audience. I've been told that it's parasocial, and I've been advised by my legal counsel that I should not engage in it. So, with that being said, let's talk about what's actually going on the ground. Contrary to, you're right, the Kremlin gremlins, the Moscow manlets out there, Vlad. wait, what was it? What was the other one? Something Vlad? Vlad the Virgins. Yeah, Virgin Vlads out there. Okay, despite what they're saying, no, Ukraine is not being completely rolled on the ground. No, they're not being completely destroyed and overrun, and everything is completely out of hand, and it will be falling in sometime soon, and Putin will get his extremely based, very socialist puppet government that he's going to install there, because everybody in Ukraine is a giga Nazi. Ukrainians basically don't exist. And and Putin can bomb them into the ground, because I remember this one story that one time the Azov battalion did a mean thing in Eastern Europe, right? That's not happening. What is happening is an actual war where people are actually being hurt, and that's not going to change anytime soon. The big problem that's going on, the reason for why Russia isn't doing as well as people expected that they would, because they've been planning this for months. If you didn't know. They've been planning this invasion of Ukraine for, if I remember correctly, this in particular invasion right now, the actual movement of troops has been since November. So this isn't anything new. So it's only going into effect now, but they've been mobilizing troops near and on the border of Ukraine since November, and there's been videos of it. The big problem is that Russia is kind of a paper tiger when it comes to how well their military is ran, because they've ran their military on the ground. You've heard Let me know. Have you heard stories of Russian troops basically looting stores and everything to get more food? Like trucks running out of gas. Have you heard stories about that? No. Well, yes. There have been Russian troops and Russian vehicles that have ran out. It's real. They have ran out of gas on the side of the road, and they've been left without food, and they've been trying to loot food from stores that they've been rolling by because they don't have enough food. What's really interesting is that Russian logistics are actually ass. They're terrible. Some people say, I don't want to like armchair like war strategy, you guys, but there have been lots of people who study these conflicts and say that like infantry win battles, but logistics wins wars, and Russian logistics are actually terrible. They're garbage. Basically, what happens is that they've taken a model that resources go where they want them to, not where necessarily they're needed. And so they don't. And so how our militaries ran is that we send resupplies, fuel, food, resources, more infantry, stuff like that, to places where they're actually needed, because like the troops call back in and tell and ask for things that are needed when things arise. We're flexible in that way. Russia's infantry are not flexible. Basically, they're allotted what they've been given, and on a regular time basis, they are restocked with what we would imagine they need. The problem is the restocks are too slow, and they've ran all of their resources into the ground. So a big thing that for the reason why they've been able to mobilize so much military around is because they have trains. I think they have the third best railway, the third best railways in all of the world, basically. And all of that, a lot of that comes from the Soviet era. And so they've been able to get things from even East Russia all the way to the western border of Ukraine with relative ease because they have such good railway. The problem is they can do that, get it to the border, but actually moving it into Ukraine for a war inland in a country that's several states large. It's like Ukraine is not a small country. It's a pretty big country. I think it's 5 times the size of England. Quite large, right? They relied so heavily on railways. Ukraine knew about this, and they blew up every single railway that went from Russia's border into Ukraine's border. And they had no clue that the war was going to take this long. There's been like messages saying timetables. They wanted Ukraine to fall within a week. They're going to push in, make Kyiv fall, install their puppet government, wipe off their hands before the West could really step in and do anything, before anything else could really happen. They were going to like knock over Ukraine and be able to install their government, and they won't have to worry about them anymore, right? That's what they thought was going to happen. Obviously, it didn't. They've been finding so much resistance basically everywhere. It's made it impossible for them to make genuine progress where Ukraine has their forces. Now, if you ask me, with all that said, who's winning, right? Zelensky was like, bitch, you thought. Who's winning? I can't really answer that question at the moment in time, all right? The Russians have made incredible progress in the east and south, but the Ukrainians have been putting up an amazing fight in the north and the west. So does that even out? I don't know. Zelensky's still around. Kyiv is still standing. Kharkiv is still standing, even though there have been some places that have been encircled. What reports are is that Putin has started to realize that his troops are not doing well at all, and he's come to the table with less demands that he used to. Because remember, the original demand when it came to peace negotiations was that Ukrainians stop fighting. That hasn't happened. Yet peace negotiations are still going on. It seems like they've realized that they can't keep this up forever. Once again, Russia's economy is collapsing. Like Russia's economy is on the verge of being worse than the 1998. Was it in 1998? The 1998 crash, and that precipitated. My bad. The 1998 crash that happened after the fall of the Soviet Union. It could be even worse than that, because right now they're looking like the country could be completely default on their loans, on their bonds, on everything, because they have no way of making money anymore. They have no way of making money anymore. The ruble keeps slipping. They have runaway inflation. It's not going well for them. It's going pretty bad, right? Putin recently said that he's going to be giving, 5 million ruble per for the families of soldiers who are killed fighting in Ukraine. 5 million ruble is not much money. I think it's $5,000 if I remember correctly. It's either 5,000 or I think it may be 50,000. It's like $20. It's not a whole lot of money for a family member dying. All right. And they've recently been putting out, what was it? I think it was like, they've been putting out some propaganda. They're like 1 ruble equals 1 ruble. Wait, we recently talked about how they've almost completely ran out of money in the country as well. It's not looking good for them. They can't keep up a prolonged fight. They actually just don't have the money. They don't have the logistics. They can't do it. Worth 52K? Yeah, it's worth like 52,000. Still, like 5 million to 52,000. That's a huge drop. That's a huge drop. Because a single ruble is still worth less than a single penny, right? Robux are still more money than that, right? RuneScape GP is performing better. Oh, is it? Oh, has it gotten better? I know it was worse. What I remember seeing it at 119 ruble equals $1. So it may have bounced back a little bit, but still, like, they're on the verge of bankrupting their entire economy. It's not great, but the Ukrainian economy isn't doing that well either. It's not doing so well, in fact, that the government has moved to selling NFTs. I'm not lying to you. The Ukrainian government has been like, to raise funds to defend ourselves against Russia, we're going to be minting and selling NFTs. Putin monkey when they are going to be. This has to be a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Because of this war, it's crippled Ukraine's economy to the point where now they're going to be holding. Yeah, like Ukraine's economy is going to be held up with. We made this joke the other day that Russia's economy is going to be held up with like 14 monkey pictures. It seemed like it's going to be both of them. It's going to be held up with monkey pictures. They're going to be holding lazy lions and bored apes, respectively. This is sad and hilarious. It is. It is very sad and very hilarious. And so they're like, to fund keeping our country alive right now, we want to be able. We need to do something. All right. This is is it you? Yes. The vice prime minister of Ukraine. Okay. After careful consideration, we have decided to cancel airdrop every day. And more people are willing to help the fight back against the aggression. Instead, we will announce NFTs to support Ukrainian armed forces as it be. Also, this is my favorite tweet from here. Personally, can we just look at this for a moment? This is the best rug pull ever. Seriously, dude. Since Ukraine, you've lost it. You used to be amazing in conflicts. Now you're just too emotional. I highly recommend you read the book Art of War by Sun Tzu. Really will help you out. Can you just all right? So who had Ukrainian NFT rug pull and crypto lords discussing how each other needs to read the book Art of War to be able to have better tweets. Who had that on their bingo card? Go ahead. I hate this planet. Yes, the announcement by the deputy prime minister comes in the same week that the country raised more than $200 million from the sale of war bonds. The bonds are one of more ways Ukraine is using to raise funds. The government is also in talks with the IMF and the World Bank for emergency help. Yes. And so, yes, they'll be launching NFTs soon to help out with the war. Now, the Russian economy, they aren't doing much better. The Russian economy isn't doing much better with Putin putting through a law that means that if you have any money in foreign currency, you have to exchange 80% of it into ruble, which means that you will basically lose all of your money. You will lose all of your money. And that's the effort that they're using to prop up the ruble, because the bank can't do it anymore since they don't have any money left kept in other places. They can't do it, right? They can't prop up their dollar anymore. We're gonna call it a dollar. They can't prop up their ruble anymore because they don't have any external money, and Putin's war chest has been completely taken. So they're not doing too well on either fronts. And when NFTs are brought in, you know it's not good. Okay, you know it's bad. Yes, they also passed a censorship law that has basically made it illegal to run an independent media. Basically illegal to run independent media in Russia. Like, they already had trouble, and now it's become impossible. No rubles. And now it's become impossible because if you say something that the government deems as misinformation, you can be punished up to 15 years in jail. And so if it's misinformation related to the war, and some words that are banned are like invasion and war, you know, the two things that Russia is doing in Ukraine, you can't say a lot of that stuff anymore, or else you'll get your channel shut down and you'll be thrown in jail for up to 15 years, right? And I have no doubt that courts are going to be very happy to hand out the maximum or near maximum sentences when it comes to those sorts of crimes against the state, as they like to say, right? So to talk about what's going on, there's some things that you may see out there that I think that you should be wary of. One of those things are edited videos and pictures. That's very important to look out for. Make sure you cross-reference anything that you take. I've tried to do my best. I'm not going to tell you that I've done everything correctly. Once again, misinformation can slip through. We're talking about an active war right now. I've tried to cross-reference everything that I'm going to show you guys today, and so I've done the best that I could. Once again, I could be wrong in some things that I'm showing you, but to my knowledge, everything I'm going to be showing you today is true. So one thing that you want to look out for is our Russian maps as well. So the government of Russia have basically tried to paint all of this as everything is going to be okay. Everything is fine. We're doing great. Ukraine will fall sometime soon. And everybody should be supporting us because we like hate Nazis, bro. Ahaha. Well, dude, we love democracy. We love the free world. But these Westerners on their empire of lies keep trying to push these Nazis. It's so sad. It's so sad. Our pleas for peace have been ignored. So one thing you need to make sure of is, democracy? What? Huh? Where? One thing you need to make sure of is there are Russian maps being put through. They are going to be in Cyrillic. They are going to be in Russian, and it'll show like basically all of Eastern Ukraine taken, a big concave next to Kharkiv, next to Kyiv taken, and basically like the entirety of Ukraine is collapsing. That map was put out by the Russian government. That map is not real. It's not true. Moving into the country, the Russians have been able to make very little progress outside of near areas that they've been able to take already. Okay, so keep that in mind. Also, the Ukrainians have been doing a good job. They blew up some bridges and they also flooded some areas. They opened some dams. They flooded some areas and plains purposefully. Since we're moving into spring, snow's melting. There's a lot of mud. They want to bog down a lot of Russian infantry, and so they flooded lots of areas. And so it's been impossible for them to move in some places, which is also super cool. They're doing a good job. That doesn't mean that everything's going perfect for them. Right now, what the Russians have been trying to do is basically build like a land bridge to capture all of their ports in the south, near the Black Sea, to help stop like refueling and aid to get to Ukraine. And they're trying to connect that's coming from Crimea to the Donbass region that will basically enclose some cities. Now, there's something that you may have heard of, you may not have. Earlier today, there was supposed to be a ceasefire. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Oh, come on. Yes, supposed to be. So yes, there was supposed to be a ceasefire from Russia. Russia was these two places that I'm talking about that were encircled. The Russians blew up their energy. They blew up their water. They blew up their internet. And so they blew up their food supplies and food lines. So basically they were starving and killing, like this basically entire city as they pelted them with shells and tried to destroy them, right? Mariupol, it was Mariupol, right? And Lviv. Mariupol and Lviv, if I remember correctly. So they were like, hey, this is kind of fucked up. You're basically just killing civilians. And so they agreed to have a ceasefire. The problem was, and that was supposed to be earlier today, the problem was the ceasefire had to be halted because the ceasefire had to be halted because what was supposed to happen is that humanitarian aid was supposed to come in. They were going to evacuate the civilians, all right, so they would stop killing them. The problem is that Russia never stopped firing. Russia never stopped attempting to kill the people. Russia never allowed for humanitarian aid to come in. They never allowed any of it to happen. And so they said there was going to be a ceasefire. There was no ceasefire. The people who tried to escape weren't able to. And also they bombed some of the humanitarian aid they said that they were going to let through. And the thing is, I'm not even sure if this was like top down from Putin, because Russia's government has been so bad when it comes to mobilizing their troops that honestly the troops may not have even have known that there was supposed to be a ceasefire. If you didn't know, they barely have any secure lines to talk to each other. So they're unironically, you could if you were in Russia, if you were in Ukraine, you could tune in to some frequencies and just hear the Russians talking to each other about strategy, and they had no clue what's going, and you can just get in, you can interfere with it. And so I'm not even sure if they even knew there was supposed to be a ceasefire. And so they started bombing humanitarian aid. Some more civilians died, and the children and families who were supposed to escape aren't able to now. And now the ceasefire time has ended, and now they just started to fire more. Yeah, they're using unencrypted civilian. Imagine you have like a walkie-talkie at home, and they raid like a Walmart and start unironically using like the fucking walkie-talkies with the with the batteries included to talk to each other to get orders from Putin. Unironically, that's some shit that's going on there. It's insane. It's insane. It's wild how bad it is, and this is leading to the death of more civilians. It's very bad. Now this to the south and the east. Not near necessarily Kharkiv. Not near Kiev, it's near Kharkiv. But things are getting really bad. So listen, speaking of bad, let's talk about what happened today in the last day and some change. Okay, in the fighting. Day and some change of some fighting. All right, let's talk about that for una momento. So what's been bad for Russia, good for us, bad for Russia, is the fact that they've lost planes. They've lost many planes. How many planes have they lost? In the last 26 hours, they've lost 9 planes. 9. Every single one of them has been documented with video and footage. And so here are the planes. They're all sorts of fucked up, completely dead, which is giga pog, incredibly pog actually. Huge L coming in from Russia. But I want to talk about one plane. All right, I want to talk about one plane in here in particular, which is this one. It's an Su-34 plane, but this plane's number is 24. The Ghost of Kiev strikes again. Red Army plane. Not just that. It's more important than that. Actually, let me pull this up for you. It's more important than that, actually. Now, if we remember, who remembers? All right. Who remembers what Russia did in Syria? Yeah, it's Stalin's personal plane. Who remembers what Russia did in Syria? No. It's not an Su-24. The serial number for the plane is 24. Bomb it? Yes, they bombed it. They bombed hospitals. They bombed churches. They bombed schools. The same things that they're doing in Ukraine, actually. They did a bunch of war crimes there to help install the fascist dictator. My bad. The dictator with fascist tendencies.
This meme is very real.
Bashar al-Assad. Okay? I'm gonna be careful how I use the F word. That's just like a personal thing. I just like to use the F word a little bit more sparingly. Bashar al-Assad, who bombed and killed his own people to put down a discontent. If you're ever wondering why Syria and Russia are standing together in this, that's partly why. Same when it comes to Belarus and Lukashenko, how Russia helped support the dictatorship of Lukashenko in Belarus. So basically, they did a lot of the same things that they did in Ukraine. Now, the reason why I want to focus in on this plane in particular, 24, is because this plane helped commit the war crimes in Syria. This particular plane and its particular pilot, its pilot and co-pilot. Its co-pilot died, but its pilot of this specific plane was spotted during the Russian-Syrian war as he bombed cities, as he set cities on fire, as he bombed churches, as he bombed schools, as he bombed hospitals. It was this plane right here that helped secure the dictatorship in Syria. So I'm not just speaking out of my ass here. All right, here's the plane, Su-24. All right, you can see the number here. Let me blow this up for you a little bit just so you can see it. Su-24, spotted in Syria, bombed Syrian cities extensively. It was piloted by Mayor Krapapipo, who earlier posted photos with Putin and Assad today while bombing Cherniv. Its flying days ended. The plane is now scrapped, and the co-pilot is dead, and Kravi is in custody. So yes, here's the number, the Su-34 plane, number 24, right there. There it is. This is what's left of the plane. This is what's left of the plane after they took it down. This man with this plane and his co-pilot helped end the lives of so many innocent Syrian men, women, and children. I would like to show you the picture of this dumb fuck who got captured, but when his plane crashed, his entire shirt is covered in blood. So I can't show that to you, but I can show you him right here. This is the guy. This is the pilot posing with Putin and Assad after he just got done setting some children on fire in his plane, which is sick. I love it. I love it. He's done for. His co-pilot who helped him died. Can you tell us where to find the pic? It is, well, you can find the plane. Oh, here I can send this to you because this is not the picture, but the picture is linked under it. Here you guys go. Here's this. Hey, stop it, fluff. We're not doing that. Okay, we're not doing that. I'm not getting banned for that. It's not happening. So stop. Here, let me show you. So, and actually, this was posted in RT. The plane itself was posted in RT. Here, he enters the airbase in Syria. Hey, we're in the airbase in Syria. A special episode where we check out the Russian forces in Syria. Look at them go. Yeehaw. Yay. Hey, he's off to go kill some more children. Look at our brave fighters. This plane was actually featured. Here she is. Plane was actually featured here. There it is. Number 24. The Su-34. Number 24. Off to go commit some more war crimes and kill some more children. So that plane is scrapped. But the big problem with Russia is not only that plane was scrapped. There's an independent report that takes reported but also filmed and shot military losses of both the Russian and Ukrainian side. They don't have a side to pick, but what they do is they document how many losses have happened. So we can take a look at this, right? Documenting the losses during 2022, Russia's invasion. Russia has faced 734 losses of vehicles while fighting in Ukraine so far. 734 vehicles, all right? Like I said, the problem isn't only that plane. The problem is a lot of planes that they've lost. Oryx is pretty good. Yes, they're pretty good. I checked them out before we got here, and they seem very good at what they do. 287 destroyed, 10 damaged, and 174 abandoned. Now, remember how they said that some Russians have been abandoning their shit? Now, obviously not all of these were abandoned by people, by people like, you know, giving up willingly, but a decent amount of them are just completely left them, abandoned, just taken, and 290 were captured. That's a lot. You can't spell Putin without the L. Can't spell Putin without the L. But they also record Ukrainian losses, which are 234. Now, that's a good KD. I will say one thing. So far, Ukraine has a pretty good KD going on. 734 to 234. That's pretty good. Does this include vehicles taken by farmers? It does. Those count as either captured or abandoned. I forget which ones, but it does count as either captured or abandoned. Let me show you. I don't have. Oh, do you have the video of the truck pulling that Russian tank, of the John Deere truck? So basically, the Russians like thought that they were going to be okay since there wasn't any Ukrainian military, so they just like left their shit laying around. And so some farmers came up and yoinked and splinked it. They hitched the tanks to their John Deere tractors and just rolled them away. It was really funny. And they've lost a significant, top 10 most devious licks. They've lost a significant amount of armament in Ukraine so far. And that's why they've started wheeling in more. They've started wheeling in even more. Remember how I told you that their trains have been really important when it comes to wheeling in armament and getting it from point A to point B. They have a great train system. Getting it to the border, because they can't get into Ukraine now. Getting it to the border is important, and this is what they've been doing. They've been rolling through tanks. Now, the thing is, it's going to take a long time for it to get there and to actually be useful in Ukraine. Some people estimate a week. I can't tell you an exact estimate. I'm not a professional, but it's going to take them a long time to mobilize these new troops because they've lost so many, right? They've lost so many, 65% of their military. Now, what the good KD does is it puts them in the Ukrainians in good standing. Does that mean that they're 100% ahead? No, not really. Remember, Russia's military is far larger than Ukraine's military. I believe they have over, I think they have, if I remember correctly, they have over 4 times the amount of armored vehicles that Ukraine has. So a 1-for-1, so a trade 1-for-1 is horrible for Ukraine when it comes to armored vehicles. That's really bad for them. Okay. And so I believe they had, I'm not going to tell you an exact number, but they do have over 4 times. And so that's important. And the problem is that they're not 4 times ahead when it comes to armament being destroyed, taken, or abandoned. They're not 4 times ahead. So strictly speaking, over the size of the military, they're behind. Now, not all of Russia's military is mobilized. I don't know how much exactly of their troops and of their armament that they mobilized. It's not exactly.
This meme
but
is very real.
It's a great step for them, and they're doing a good job. If you take into account logistical losses, just from breakdowns and supply shortages, looks a lot worse. For Ukraine or Russia? Because I would imagine you mean Russia, because Russia's logistics have been terrible. Getting supplies to their troops have been awful. Like your troops shouldn't run out of food and gas on the road to like do your little war. Like that's insane. That's shockingly terrible, especially from Russia, who pretends to be like this massive, a great military force. Like they can't even do it. They can't. This is like us failing in Syria. My bad. This is like us failing in Afghanistan if Afghanistan was Mexico. Like this bad. That's awful. That's awful. They've dropped more than 500 missiles. They've lost so much air capacity that they don't even want to use it anymore. That even the ask for a no-fly zone wouldn't necessarily do too much because they're not using planes that often anymore. Ever since the Stingers and the NLAWs and the Javelins got there, they haven't been using them too much. Mexico would put up a hell of a fight. They are tough down there. The Abulas, they are tough down there. Vietnam maybe. Yeah, it'd be like if Vietnam was Mexico, right? It's like if we failed there. But we tried to make ourselves look like this big bad, but we can't even roll like the much smaller government, much smaller nation that's on our border as a modernized military. I'm not saying that like they're as comparable. I'm just saying this would be like the same loss, but it's even worse because they're on their border, right? You don't have to. Things don't take like a week. You don't have to move stuff across the entire world to get there. The logistics should be way easier to manage, and they still can't do it.
This meme is very real.
What, 30 miles from their border? 30 miles from their border. It'd be like if China got rolled by Vietnam or Laos, something like that. It's really bad. So, with all of this being said, and they're not only using that railway for military equipment, they're using railway for all of the soldiers that they took and threw into this fire who died. This is them loading dead bodies onto trains to go back to Moscow. You can't see any dead bodies here, but to go back to Moscow, because reports are that they've lost 10,000 troops, around 10,000 troops. Now, are we sure of that number? No, that could be propaganda, but they've lost somewhere in the ballpark. I would say between 7,000 and 12,000 troops at the moment, around that number. As the time that we're talking about. 10,000, that doesn't sound right. Well, a couple of days ago, like half a week ago, they lost 5,000, and that was reported by the US. So it's in that area. Once again, with the fog of war and everything, you can't tell exactly, and Russia lies about their numbers all the time, as we know already. They lie about everything that's going on. They've lied about everything moving up to this point in time, and they're lying about everything afterwards. So we can't trust their numbers, right? So I'm just giving you a ballpark. It should be around, like I said, like 6,000 to 11,000 like in that area, But that's a lot. That's a lot. And it's nearing an unmitigated disaster, right? It can still be mitigated. They can still win. I'm not telling you that it's impossible for Russia to win, because they very much can still win. All right. But it's nearing an unmitigated disaster from an economic standpoint, a logistical standpoint, a military standpoint, an infantry standpoint, an information standpoint. They're losing everything. They're beginning to lose their grip on everything, and an extended fight will not last long for them. And the problem for Russia is that an extended fight is what this is going to be. Now, they may succeed. I'm going to tell you this now. They may succeed in taking Kyiv. They may succeed in killing, capturing, running off Zelensky, and installing a puppet government for some time. That's true. They can take it, but they cannot hold it. They do not have the economic power, military power, logistical power to hold on to Ukraine. They just can't do it. Especially what we saw in Chechnya, and we didn't come down as hard on Russia as they did when they were taking Chechnya, and the Chechnyan war lasted for 8 years with a guerrilla underground insurgency. 8 years is not time that Russia has this time around. They can't do it. But I'm not saying we're going to get there. Nobody knows. I'm not going to try to pretend like I know where this is going to go, but it's not looking good for Russia. It's not looking good for Ukraine with those things that we talked about, with Russian forces becoming more desperate as they lose information, as they lose logistics, food, fuel, all of this sort of stuff. It's not looking good for them. And them becoming desperate has led to the new civilian bombings that we've seen. So the reason why those civilian bombings have gone up is because they're desperate now. They need this war to end, because if not, it's kind of like a weightlifter, okay? Think of it like this. It's like a weightlifter versus a marathon runner. Like a weightlifter, the professional weightlifter can pick up way more than like a marathon runner can, but a marathon runner has the endurance to keep going. Russia has the firepower, but time is on Ukraine's side. And so if they can even delay Russia every single day, the problem becomes exponentially worse for Russia. The sanctions take a tighter grip. The logistics become worse. They're running out of people. They're running out of money. All of these things that you need for a war, they're losing them. And so, if they're able to delay for longer, the likelihood of Russia winning drops dramatically every single day. That's how it's working. Every single day it drops. So that's what we're looking at right now. Who's winning? I can't tell you who's winning, but what I can tell you is that time is on Ukraine's side and not on Russia's. And what we're seeing on the ground, a lot of the things are true, a lot of the things aren't. But what we're seeing on the ground is that Russian forces have a lot of trouble making it to places where they need to be, where Putin wants them to be, in the time frames that he wants them to be. And the longer that goes on, and the longer that becomes an issue, the less likely their victory is, and the more damage is going to be done to the Russian economy, Russian military, and Russian standing on the world. And so that's where we stand. I'm not gonna tell you any like big grand story of everything's going to be okay or everything's going to be terrible. I don't really know. I don't think everything's going to be terrible. Obviously, not everything's going to be okay. Was it 1 million refugees have left Ukraine at the moment? So that's what's going on there. They've lost a lot of people to the war, who've been killed in their homes, in their apartments after being bombed by Russia, to people who have left and who are now faced with trying to build a life without their like husbands, without their fathers, without their uncles, without their grandfathers, who aren't allowed to leave and who have decided that they want to come back and fight. 66,000 Ukrainians have gone back into Ukraine from abroad to fight, while their families have been left. Some who had to flee with nothing in other parts of the country. My bad. Some in other parts of the country, typically either Western Ukraine or in Poland or Finland, Sweden, and the UK, other places as well. That's what's going on. All right. There are very few There's no such thing as a pure hero in war. It doesn't exist. What I will tell you is that the Ukrainians are on the right side of history. Just if that's going to lead to them keeping their country without Russian control, I can't tell you that. But time is on their side. Do what you can. Oh, one last thing. Be very careful when it comes to donation links. Very careful indeed. There are lots of people. They've already started with the spam bots. Okay, who, if you say anything about Ukraine or Russia or anything, they're gonna be like, "Hey, I need your help. Send me some money," and it'll be just some random weirdo barefoot loser in his basement, blackened out, covered in goddamn Cheeto dust, surrounded in little barefoot waifu dolls that he bought with the money from people who are desperate to try and help Ukrainians with anything that they can. Okay, be careful. There are people who are trying to scam you. Go through the most valid sources that you can. Verify, triple verify where you're giving money to, because if not, you're going to be giving to a scammer. And honestly, there have been reports that the Russian government has been doing some of this, and to trick you into sending money to them instead of Ukraine or Ukrainian people who are fleeing Russia's violence in their country. All right, and if that sounds crazy to you, remember that Ukraine is now going to be selling NFTs to help fund their humanitarian aid and defense. All right. So if that sounded crazy to you, remember, all right, this is a real story. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Just keep that in mind. Who's winning? I can't tell you, but time's on their side. So keep some hope. Have you seen this though? Oh yeah, you're right. How did I leave? How did I forget? Such a quality meme. So wait. So what happened is that in the places in eastern Ukraine where the Russian forces have been able to take, and they've met like few Ukrainian resistance, they started to try to take some administrative buildings, okay? And the mayors of those buildings got their number. So what happened is that they started to take they loaded up like 14 dudes onto a single elevator and like tried to send them to the top floor to do some reconnaissance and everything. And so the mayor just shut off the power while they're in the elevator. And they just got stuck. Russians entered an elevator to cover the area from the roof of the building, and the Ukrainians just turned off the power. And they're just sitting in there. It's so good. Look at them. Let me out. Release me. Let me out. I think I can't get stuck in here. Boss, I'm claustrophobic. Shut up. The more you keep yelling, we're running out of oxygen. But boss, I can't get stuck in here. What are we gonna do? And then the officer is like, well, maybe we could think of something if you go put your heads together. And he grabs the back of their helmets and like knocks their heads together, and they go, oh. yeah, he's man, how we gonna get out of here? Sitcom. I love it. Yeah, the 10 Stooges. Hey boss, how we getting out of here? We're in a real pickle this time, boss. I love it. Curb your invasion. Certified Brahma. Screech. Me just got out of high school at 18, forced to serve with my buddy, forced to serve in the military, record scratch. So I bet you're wondering how we got here. You have to pee? I gotta crack jokes before I pee. Leave me alone. Go pee? Why? Why are you telling me to go pee so bad? I wasn't even supposed to come into work today. You should pee yourself now. I'm sorry. It's just so good. It's such a good picture. This is why the morale is so low. Oh yeah, 100%. Little did you know, if you go to Kharkiv, you can still hear the Russians screaming in the elevators. So damn good. I'm sorry. Nothing beats this. Curb your invasion. He looks pissed. Yeah, he's got to pee. Boss, are we almost to the top floor? I had to pee ever since we made it to Kharkiv. The elevator stopped moving. Wait, really? I love it.